The scent of pine and cinnamon sugar is the first layer, the foundation upon which I build this perfect day. I move through the downstairs of our home, a conductor ensuring every instrument is tuned before the symphony begins. My hands, which Charles says are still the hands of the young woman he married, smooth the velvet of the stockings hanging from the mantelpiece. They are not stockings really, but rather elegant deep green velvet sacks I had monogrammed years ago, one for each of us, Charles, Marcus, and me. Maya has her own now, a newer edition, but the thread matches. It is important that the details match. I step back to admire the tree. It is a masterpiece. The lights are the large, warm, vintage bulbs that glow like captured fireflies, not the harsh, tiny LEDs that seem so cold to me. Each ornament is a memory. The clumsy clay reindeer Marcus made in kindergarten. The delicate glass ball we bought on our honeymoon in Vienna. The collection of silver stars that commemorate each year we have lived in this house. The tree is not just decoration. It is the family biography, told in glitter and glass. Charles will come down later and say it is the most beautiful tree we have ever had, as he does every year, and I will believe him because this year it is true. This year, everything feels particularly pristine, particularly earned. I hear his footsteps on the stairs, a familiar, solid sound. Charles appears in the doorway, his reading glasses perched on his nose, a book in his hand. He looks like the embodiment of a Christmas card in his crisp white shirt and dark red sweater. "The house smells incredible, my love," he says, his voice a low rumble that has comforted me for 32 years. He comes to stand beside me, his arm slipping around my waist. We look at the tree together, a portrait of contentment. "Another year," he murmurs, his breath warm against my temple. "We have built a good life, Lorraine, a strong life." I lean into him. He is right. We have endured. We endured the lean years when he was building his practice. We endured the terrifying night when Marcus had appendicitis at age 7. We endured the quiet ache of an empty nest. This house, this tree, this day, they are a testament to that endurance. They are the proof that love and perseverance can build something beautiful, something permanent. The doorbell chimes, a cheerful, melodic sound I specifically chose for its holiday tone. "They are here," I say, a flutter of excitement in my chest. Charles gives my waist a squeeze before releasing me to answer the door. I hear the burst of cold air and their voices before I see them. Marcus's booming laugh, so like his father's, and then Maya's lighter, musical tone. I arrange my face into the warmest possible smile and go to greet them. "Mom," Marcus envelops me in a hug that smells of cold wool and city air. He is flushed and smiling, his eyes crinkling at the corners. He looks happy. My heart swells. Behind him, Maya is unwrapping a long, cream-colored scarf from her neck. She is a beautiful girl, with sharp, intelligent eyes and a smile that always seems to hold a secret. "Lorraine, your home is even more beautiful than I remember," she says, handing me her coat. Her words are perfect, gracious. I kiss her cheek. "It is so good to have you both here. Come in, get warm." Charles is clapping Marcus on the back, a fatherly gesture full of pride. Then he turns to Maya. The exchange is brief, over in a second. He steps forward to give her the customary hug. But it is not customary, I see it. His embrace is a fraction too quick, his pat on her back a little too firm, more a dismissal than a greeting. And Maya, her smile tightens ever so slightly, her body seems to stiffen before she pulls away. Her eyes do not quite meet his. It is nothing, it is less than nothing. A trick of the light, perhaps, the chill from outside still clinging to them. Charles is from a generation that is not overly demonstrative. Maya is a modern girl, maybe she expects more effusion. I dismiss the thought as quickly as it comes. I am being silly, looking for problems where none exist. This is a day for joy. "I made your favorite," I say to Marcus, leading them into the living room. "Mulled wine, and Maya, I have the non-alcoholic cider warming for you." "You did not have to do that," Maya says, but she looks pleased. "Nonsense, it is Christmas." We settle around the fireplace with our drinks. The conversation flows easily, filled with stories from Marcus about his work and our gentle probing about their plans, about maybe, one day, thinking about a house in the suburbs. Maya laughs and says the city has its charms, but she does not say no. I watch Charles. He is listening, nodding, smiling at the right moments. But his eyes, when they rest on Maya, have a watchful quality. I tell myself it is just his way. He is a careful man, a man who built a successful law practice on his attention to detail. He is just observing his future daughter-in-law. It is a sign of care, I decide. It must be. Dinner is served in the dining room, the table gleaming with my mother's silver and the china we only use on the most special occasions. The turkey is golden, the potatoes fluffy, the gravy rich and dark. The air is thick with the sounds of clinking cutlery and laughter. It is perfect. It is everything I have worked for. We are the very image of a family, whole and happy. The gift exchange comes after dessert. We do it one at a time, savoring each offering. Marcus and Maya give Charles a beautiful leather-bound journal, and he is genuinely touched. They give me a delicate silver locket. "For a picture of your boys," Maya says softly, and the gesture is so thoughtful I feel a pang of affection for her. Then it is our turn. We give Marcus a vintage watch, similar to the one Charles wears. He is thrilled. Then Charles hands Maya a small, flat, elegantly wrapped box. "This is for you, Maya," he says, his voice neutral. She smiles, tearing the paper carefully. Inside is a book. It looks old. The leather cover is worn. I do not recognize it. Maya's smile falters for a second, replaced by a look of confusion. "Oh," she says, her voice a little faint. "Thank you, Charles, it is lovely." "It is a first edition," Charles says, his tone casual, but his eyes are fixed on her. "A collection of sonnets. I thought you would appreciate it. You are a woman who appreciates the classics, are you not?" The room feels suddenly colder. Marcus is beaming, oblivious. "Wow, a first edition? That is amazing, Dad." Maya's fingers trace the embossed title on the cover. She is not looking at Charles. She is looking at the book as if it might contain a hidden message. "Yes," she says, her voice barely a whisper. "I do appreciate the classics. Thank you." She places the book on the table beside her, with a deliberate slowness, as if it is heavy. The moment passes. Marcus starts talking about a movie he wants us all to see, and the conversation moves on. But the air has shifted. The cinnamon and pine scent now seems to mask something else. Charles's gaze lingers on the book, then on Maya, a satisfied, almost challenging look in his eyes that he does not think I see. Later, as I am gathering the discarded wrapping paper, my fingers brush against the leather cover of the book Charles gave Maya. It feels cold. I pick it up. The title is faded but legible. It is not a famous collection. I open the cover. There is no inscription. But tucked into the first few pages as a placeholder is a single, dried four-leaf clover, pressed flat and fragile. It is such a strange, whimsical thing to find in a book from my pragmatic husband. A wave of unease washes over me, so strong it makes me dizzy. Why this book? Why that clover? The questions hang in the air, silent and sharp, threatening the very foundation of the perfect holiday I have so meticulously built. The facade, for the first time, has a crack, and I am terrified to look inside. The last of the Christmas embers had collapsed into a soft bed of ash in the fireplace. The grand tree in the corner, which had sparkled with such life only hours before, now stood silent and dark, its festive burden of ornaments looking like forgotten jewels in the dim light. The scent of pine needles and roasted turkey still hung in the air, a ghost of the day's joy. I was alone in the vast stillness of the living room, curled into the corner of the sofa, a heavy wool blanket draped over my legs. The silence was a physical presence, broken only by the faint hum of the refrigerator from the kitchen and the occasional, hollow tick from the grandfather clock in the hall. It was a peace I had earned, a quiet reward after the delightful chaos of a day filled with our children's laughter and the warm, bustling energy of extended family. My phone was a small, glowing rectangle in the darkness, a portal to the lingering echoes of the holiday. I scrolled slowly through my social media feed, a gentle smile touching my lips. Picture after picture of friends and their families, all bathed in the same soft, happy light we had known. It was a tapestry of normalcy, of shared happiness, and it comforted me. Then, Maya's post appeared. My smile widened instinctively. There she was, my dearest friend, her face glowing with festive cheer. The caption read, "Merry Christmas from us." She was in her guest bedroom, I noted, the one with the floral wallpaper I had always admired. The room was decorated for the season, a small, twinkling tree on the dresser behind her. It was a lovely picture. My thumb moved to scroll on to the next post, but some small impulse made me pause. I looked closer. Maya looked truly happy, her eyes crinkling at the corners in that way they did when her joy was genuine. And then my world stopped. My eyes, of their own volition, drifted from her beaming face to the mirror on the wall behind her. It was an ornate, gilded thing, reflecting a portion of the room that the camera's primary lens did not capture. At first, my mind did not process what it was seeing. It was just a shape, a blur of flesh tones in the background, but my heart, it seemed, understood before my mind did. A cold tremor started deep within me, a seismic shift beginning at my very core. I brought the phone closer, my breath catching in my throat. I tapped the screen to enlarge the image, my fingers suddenly clumsy and cold. The pixels rearranged themselves, sharpening into a horrifying clarity. In the mirror, clear as day, was Charles. My Charles, but he was not a fleeting figure caught passing in the hallway. He was deep inside the room, standing near the bed, his posture relaxed and entirely at home. And he was shirtless. The familiar, solid planes of his chest and shoulders were unmistakable. But it was his expression that drove the first splinter of ice into my heart. He was not looking at the camera, not posing for a Christmas photo. He was looking directly at Maya's reflection, his gaze holding an intimate, possessive familiarity that was meant for no one else to see. It was a look I knew intimately, a look I had believed was reserved only for me. A look that said, "You are mine." The world shrank. The spacious living room, the high ceilings, the familiar furniture, it all dissolved into a suffocating darkness with only the accusing glow of the phone screen remaining. A high-pitched ringing started in my ears, drowning out the tick of the clock, the hum of the house. I could feel the blood draining from my face, a cold sweat blooming on my skin. Disbelief was a frantic, scrambling thing. No, it is a trick of the light, a misunderstanding. He was bringing her a towel. He had just gotten out of the shower. A dozen absurd, pathetic explanations flickered and died in my mind, each one more hollow than the last. The evidence was irrefutable, captured in a single, devastating, pixelated moment. The caption, "Merry Christmas from us," now seemed like a cruel, mocking joke. A sound escaped my lips then, a small, strangled gasp that was not quite a sob. It was the sound of my entire life shattering. The foundation upon which I had built everything, 23 years of marriage, of raising a family, of shared Christmases and quiet Sunday mornings, cracked and collapsed into dust in an instant. The man I had trusted with my life, the father of my children, the partner I had envisioned growing old with, was a stranger. And the woman I had called my closest friend, the one I had confided in about everything, from my fears about Charles's business trips to my joy at our daughter's engagement, was his accomplice. I do not know how long I sat there, paralyzed. The phone slipped from my numb fingers and landed soundlessly on the blanket. The glow from the screen illuminated my lap, a square of hellish light in the dark room. I felt a pain so profound, so deep that it had no immediate outlet. It was a cold, gut-wrenching certainty that settled in the pit of my stomach, a heavy, leaden weight of absolute betrayal. The agony was silent, all-consuming. I did not cry. The shock was too great for tears. As the deepest hours of the night crept towards dawn, I began to move. It was not a conscious decision. My body simply rose from the sofa, a marionette operated by some deep survivalist instinct. I walked through the dark house, my hand trailing along the walls for support. I passed the closed door of our daughter's old room, where she now slept peacefully, unaware that her mother's world had ended. I climbed the stairs, each step an immense effort. I did not enter our bedroom. I could not. Instead, I went into the small, formal sitting room at the end of the hall, a room we never used. I sat in a stiff, velvet-covered chair and looked out the window at the black, starless sky, and I began to replay everything. The memories came not as a flood, but as a methodical, brutal parade. Our first meeting, our wedding day, the birth of our children. Christmases passed. I examined each one now through this new, hideous lens, searching for the clues I had missed. That business trip to Chicago he had taken alone last spring, the one where he was unreachable for an entire evening. The way Maya had started mentioning his name more often in our conversations, always with a little laugh. "Oh, Charles would find that hilarious," she would say. The new cologne he had started wearing a few months ago, the increased frequency of his late nights at the office. I had been so blind, so trusting. Each remembered moment, once a golden treasure, now revealed itself as a tarnished lie. The narrative of my life, which I had believed was a beautiful, coherent story, was in fact a patchwork of deceit. The grief was a physical pressure in my chest, so immense I thought my ribs would crack. But as the first faint hint of gray lightened the sky outside the window, something else began to stir beneath the pain. It was a cold, hard sensation, starting in my frozen heart and spreading through my veins like ice water. The profound sorrow began to crystallize into something else entirely, a quiet, furious resolve. The tears that had refused to come now felt like they were freezing solid behind my eyes. I stood up and walked back to the top of the stairs. I could see the front door below, the wreath still hanging there, a symbol of welcome and home, a home that was now a lie. I looked at the closed door of our master bedroom, behind which Charles slept, innocent and unsuspecting in his dreamless sleep. My hand tightened on the banister, my knuckles white. He would wake up soon. He would come downstairs, yawning, and ask me what I wanted for breakfast. He would kiss my cheek with the same lips that had undoubtedly kissed her. And he would have no idea that the woman standing before him was not the Lorraine he had left last night. That woman was gone, shattered into a million pieces. The woman who remained was someone new, someone who knew. I would not confront him, not yet. To do so would be to show my hand, to lose any advantage I might have. This pain would not be for nothing. This betrayal would not be the end of me. It would be the beginning of something else. I descended the stairs, each step measured and silent. I entered the kitchen and filled the kettle with water, my movements precise and automatic. I would make tea. I would act normal. I would wear my life like a mask until I decided when and how to take it off. The grief was still there, a vast, cold ocean inside me, but it was now capped with a layer of steely determination. I had spent decades building a life with this man. I would not let him destroy me without a fight. The game had changed, and I, Lorraine, would now be the one making the rules. The kettle began to whistle, a sharp, screaming sound in the silent, sleeping house. The house was a mausoleum of Christmas cheer. The twinkling lights on the tree in the corner felt like a mockery, each glint a tiny lie. The scent of pine, which usually filled me with such warmth, now choked me. I sat at the kitchen island, the cold marble seeping through my robe. The photograph lay face down on the counter, a flat, dark secret. I had not slept. I had moved through the night like a ghost, the weight of that single image an anchor dragging my soul to the bottom of the sea. I was not hysterical. The shock had burned away into something else, something cold and hard and terrifyingly clear. I was a bomb that had already detonated, and now I was just waiting for the silence to be broken, for the debris to settle so I could survey the damage. I heard his footsteps on the stairs, the familiar creak on the third step from the top. Charles, heading for his first coffee, oblivious to the fault line that was about to crack open beneath our lives. He entered the kitchen, his face still soft with sleep, and offered a small, tired smile. "Good morning, Lorraine, you are up early." I did not return the smile. I simply looked at him. I watched the smile falter on his lips as he registered my expression, the absolute stillness of me. My voice, when it came, was not the shriek he might have expected. It was low, measured, a scalpel instead of a bludgeon. "Sit down, Charles." He hesitated, a flicker of confusion, and then I saw it, the first tiny seed of fear in his eyes. "What is it? Is it Marcus? Maya?" "Sit down," I repeated, the words leaving no room for argument. He pulled out a stool and sat, his posture wary. I let the silence stretch, let him feel the gravity of the moment. Then, with a slow, deliberate movement, I turned the photograph over and slid it across the counter until it stopped directly in front of him. I watched his face. I saw the initial confusion as he looked at the image of a woman he did not immediately recognize. Then I saw the moment of connection, the dreadful realization dawning. His eyes widened, the color draining from his face so completely I thought he might faint. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. The lies were right there. I could see them forming on his tongue, a lifetime of practiced deceptions ready to deploy. But they died before they were born, suffocated by the brutal, undeniable truth captured in that single, damning frame. "Lorraine, he began, his voice a ragged whisper. "Do not," I cut him off, my voice still eerily calm. "Do not insult me with another lie. I want to know how long." He dropped his head into his hands, his shoulders slumping in a posture of utter defeat. The silence that followed was heavier than any sound. When he finally looked up, his eyes were red-rimmed and swimming with a shame so profound it was almost pitiable. Almost. "A year," he whispered, the words a confession torn from the deepest part of him. "It has been going on for a year. Her name is Sarah. She works in accounting." A year, the word echoed in the sterile silence of the kitchen. 365 days of lies. Of him kissing me goodbye in the morning, of him holding my hand during a movie, of him lying next to me in our bed, all while sharing his life with another woman. The calm I had cultivated threatened to shatter. A hot, sharp pain lanced through my chest. He began to babble then, the floodgates breaking. It was a cliché, a tired script I had never imagined would be ours. It meant nothing, he was lonely, he was weak, he was a fool. He pleaded, his voice cracking. I am so sorry, Lorraine, I am so sorry. I love you, I love our family. Please, we can fix this. We can go to counseling. I will end it today, I swear to you. He reached for my hand, but I pulled it back as if his touch were acid. The broken man before me was not my husband. My husband was the charming liar in the photograph. This was just the hollowed-out shell he had left behind. There is no we to fix this, Charles, I said, the words final. You broke it, alone. I stood up, the photograph still lying between us like a corpse. You will be the one to tell Marcus and Maya, but I will be there. They will hear the truth from you, and they will see that I am standing. The confrontation with Marcus was a different kind of storm. We called him into the living room, the space that had hosted so many family celebrations. Charles, his face ashen, delivered the news in a halting, broken monologue. I stood by the fireplace, my arms crossed, a statue of maternal dignity. I watched my son's face, saw the journey of emotions, confusion, disbelief, a dawning horror, and then a rage so pure it burned away his youth in an instant. A year, Marcus's voice was low, dangerous. He looked from his father to me, his eyes begging me to tell him it was a cruel joke. You have been cheating on Mom for a year, and Maya, does she know? The question hung in the air, a second, more devastating bomb. Charles could only nod, unable to meet his son's gaze. The sound that came from Marcus was a guttural roar of betrayal. He lunged forward, and for a terrifying second, I thought he would strike his father. I moved between them, placing a hand on Marcus's chest. He was trembling with the force of his fury. He is not worth it, Marcus, I said, my voice soft but firm. Your anger is a gift he does not deserve. But the fury had to go somewhere. He turned and stormed out of the house, the slam of the front door a violent punctuation to our family's old life. I knew where he was going. To confront Maya. To demand answers from the woman who had been his accomplice in this betrayal, even if only through her silence. Later, when Marcus returned, the fire in his eyes had been replaced by a cold, weary desolation. He did not say what had transpired, but the grim set of his jaw told me everything. His marriage, too, was another piece of rubble in the wreckage. In the days that followed, the silence in the house was absolute. Charles moved into the guest room. The legal separation papers were drafted and served. He pleaded, he wept, but my resolve was a fortress built on the bedrock of his deceit. I found my strength not in the possibility of forgiveness, but in the clean, sharp truth. The truth was my compass now. One afternoon, I stood looking at the Christmas tree. It stood there, garish and false, a symbol of a happiness that had never truly existed. I walked over and began the methodical process of taking it apart. I did not call for help. This was my task alone. I carefully removed each ornament, each one a memory, the clumsy clay reindeer Marcus made in kindergarten, our first Christmas ball from over 25 years ago. I did not weep over them. I placed each one in its box, not as relics of a lost paradise, but as artifacts of a story that was finished. When the tree was bare, a skeletal thing in the corner, I dragged it out the front door and left it on the curb. The living room felt larger, emptier, but also cleaner. The air was free of the cloying scent of pine. Marcus found me there, standing in the twilight of the empty room. He did not speak. He simply came and stood beside me, his presence a solid comfort. We looked at the space where the tree had been, at the vacuum that was now our reality. What happens now, Mom? He asked, his voice quiet. I looked at my son, my beautiful, wounded son, and I saw not just the pain, but a new, hard-won strength mirroring my own. Now, I said, we build something new, something real. He nodded slowly, and in that shared silence, I felt the first fragile thread of a new beginning. But as I looked past him, out the window at the darkening street, a cold knot tightened in my stomach. The future was a blank page, and I knew the story was far from over. The reckoning had arrived, but the echoes of his betrayal were only just beginning to ripple through our lives, and I feared what other secrets the tide might wash ashore.